Hi guys, my name is Nancy. I'm a desk clerk at the Ann Arbor District Library, and today I'm going to be showing you how to make felt succulents. This was a program that we were going to be running in the middle of March, but due to the closures we had to cancel it, so I thought it would be fun for us to get caught up, try this project, and do a little bit of crafting together. So you're going to need several different supplies for this. Let me get my camera reset up so you can see what I see on my desk. Okay, so your supplies. You're going to need, first of all, obviously, felt. I get my felt from any crafting store, doesn't matter where. I did order special colors online, and you'll see some of these colors that you can't find in stores just for the sole reason that I wanted folks to have options, so I have access to that. So, we have our felt. We are going to need a pair of scissors, which I forgot. So normal pair of scissors, these are just bigger dressmaking shears, just whatever I could grab over there. So scissors, we're going to need a hot glue gun. So this is just a standard craft store mini hot glue gun with just standard craft store sticks, nothing fancy. And then a surface to glue onto. So for the original project, I used these really cool tree slices. I got these online. I just bought them through Amazon. And then I drilled a hole in the top to be able to run jute cord through so that you could use it as a hanger. And you can see that in this original that I made. There's our hanger. I'm actually going to hold this a little bit closer to the camera so you guys can see kind of what that looks like with our hanger. Cool. The one that I'm going to be gluing on today is a little different though. I found this frame in a discount bin at Meijer for $1.20, and it was really cute. So I'm going to use this to glue my succulents on for today. Now that we have our supplies all laid out, we're going to need a pattern. So the pattern for this is in the description box below. This is a free pattern that I found online. There are lots of different patterns that are either paid or free. You can use whichever one you want, or you can use this one to start. This sheet, you can tell I've already cut the pattern pieces out of. What it'll come with is a picture of what they're supposed to look like, some instructions, and then your templates. The templates I chose to cut out from the paper and then trace onto cardstock because I knew that I was going to be using these over and over again. So the cardstock is a lot more stable and will give you a more stable surface to trace around that isn't going to warp a lot like copy paper will. I also labeled the pieces. So they will come, I've got these in the wrong order according to the sheet. So A, B, C usually is smallest to largest. And then it'll give you a key for how many pieces you need for each size succulent. So for this star succulent that we're going to work on today, we're going to just start through the pattern. I'm going to go through at least one of each of the different types that are in the pattern so that you can see how they're all made because there's a little bit of finickiness with each one. So we're going to do the large succulent first. This one says I need 5 A pieces, 4 B pieces, and 6 C pieces. So I'm going to set that aside. And I pre-cut my leaves before we started. One thing I do want to note is you want to try to maximize the size of your felt sheet as much as you can. So when I'm looking at this sheet, I'm a bear for trying to fit as many things as humanly possible on every single sheet. So I cut the standard size sheets into 3 strips and then traced my pieces on from there. I tessellated these, so I just kind of turned them. So I kind of placed them on in advance to see where they would fit the best and trying to get the most out of each sheet. But since we are doing a little bit of a shortcut, I've already cut out some pieces. Sorry, I'm jostling my camera here. So we had our C pieces, of which there were 6. Our B pieces, they needed 4. And 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 of the A pieces. Let me check my numbers really quick because I just want to make sure that's correct. 5A, 4B, and 6C. Awesome. So we have all of our pieces cut. Now's the fun part. please, if you're a younger person doing this, please get a big person to help you with a glue gun, because these guys are very hot. You'll probably hear me saying ouch a couple times because mine is very hot. I've had this one since I was in primary school, so I've had this gun for a long time. So you're going to place a small line of glue right down the middle, or just a small dot. Doesn't really matter. I'm going to get that guy out of there because I don't want him on my piece. And then you're going to fold these, but you're not going to fold them directly in half. You're going to fold them at an angle. So you're folding them offset from one another. So the points should go in 2 different directions. So, probably a little easier to see if I lay it flat. So, 2 different directions. One's going that way, one's going that way. I'm going to go ahead and do one more of these so that I can demonstrate something for you. You want to keep your folds consistent across however many petals you have. So I folded this one with the right point in front and the left point in back. So it's staggered. Right point in front, left point in back. I want to do that for every single one of the petals that I do from there on out. So again, I'm going to put my line of glue in the middle, fold it in half, right over left, so the right side's in front. You do kind of want to hold this a little bit until it hardens. And most glue guns are pretty fast. You can do this with tacky glue, just normal standard craft glue, but it does not dry fast enough. You're going to end up holding it for a long time. I tried this with craft glue. It was not fun. So, you fold that one in half. Oops, that one I did the wrong way. Okay, we're going to see how that goes. And 4. Fold right over left. And last one. Right over left. Okay. You can play with how you fold these. So you can fold them straight up and down, so they're a little bit straighter, or you can fold them at more of an angle, so the petals are further apart. So you can play with that and kind of decide what you like. It's going to take a couple succulents before these are going to look right, but felt is very cheap, so that's the positive. I am stuck together. Okay, so the next step, once you've got your first set of petals folded, is you're going to want to roll your first one into a cone. The way that I find this the most helpful is to place a very, 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 very thin line of hot glue. And then you're going to roll it from one edge to the other. So I'm making a cone out of my succulents. So there should be a point. There should be a little hole in the middle, and when you flip it over, it should look like a tiny bud. That's a little harder to see. Maybe this camera can show it a little bit better. Yeah, the lighting's better there. So you're rolling it closed. And that is your centerpiece that you're going to build off of. So, before I even glue, I try to lay my petals on to see how they look. Now, I go for something that looks a little bit more natural. So I try to keep the petals offset from one another. So like that looks pretty good, but if I turn it a little bit this way, the petals are a little bit more offset. So it looks a little bit more natural. Now I'm going to hold, this is going to look a little confusing on the camera, but I'm going to kind of hold that bud in the middle in my left hand and put a tiny line of glue on the petal underneath it. And I'm going to start to roll it around. I held it because I wanted to make sure that I kept that petal in the place that I wanted it and it didn't get lost. That's purely from practice. So again, I'm going to hold it for a couple seconds, let the glue dry, admire how pretty it is. And then, once the glue has hardened, I'm going to go on to my next one. So I'm going to set him down, go on to my next one. This one I'm pretty confident on where I want him because I want to try to cover up that gap. Because these petals don't wrap all the way around the base, they shouldn't. But I wanted to try to fill, and I'll show you here once this hardens in just a second. I'm going to show you what I mean by a gap. So the end of one petal is over here, the other end is over here. It doesn't wrap through this section right here. We want to close those sections wherever we can. So this guy got a little off center, but that's okay. So the next one, I would want to put on that gap and around to close it off. So it looks like that. Okay. So that's, I know where I want it. I'm going to go ahead and get some glue on this one. Okay. And I know I want him to close that gap, so I'm going to butt him up with the petal that I just laid and wrap it around and hold. Now, something cool starts to happen on the bottom here. If you've ever seen a closed flower or a closed rose, that's what the bottom of this should kind of look like, is a rosebud. That's how you kind of know that you're doing it right. I've got a little extra glue there, but that's how you know that it's looking correct, is it should look like a rose on the bottom. One more of this little guy. I want to place him first before I decide on where to glue him. I like right there. Okay, so it's butted up right against that edge of that petal that I just laid. Okay, so butt it up to the petal I just laid and wrap it around and hold. Okay, so now we have our middle done. What you'll notice about the pattern is the pattern builds on itself. So the steps are all the same for all of the different patterns. You're just building them bigger to get the different sizes. So for the sake of expediency, I'm going to fold and glue these guys off camera and I'll be right back. Okay, now that we've got those petals folded, whoops. I have to hold this one for a couple more seconds to make sure it stays closed. We can continue adding petals, now the bigger size. So we're not doing the small ones now we're doing big ones. And same as before. We'll be putting a line of glue on the bottom and butting it up to the succulent. I'm going to flip it over so I can make sure. The other thing that you're going to want to keep an eye on is making sure that you keep your petals on the same plane. The bottom of these guys is flat. You want to make sure you keep the bottom flat so that it doesn't, so everything looks, well, it all kind of stays on the same plane. Okay, and next one. Okay, I'm going to go ahead and speed this portion of the video up so that you can kind of watch it and we'll be able to get to some of the other designs too. And that is our first succulent. So I'm going to set him aside, and I'm going to go over one more of the so there's 3 different types of succulents that you're going to have in these patterns. The first one is the normal round ones where you're folding and gluing them on. The second one is going to be this petal one. And then the third is going to be a pointy one that we haven't done yet. It's the pointy succulent, second to the last pattern on the sheet. So that one is a little bit different in that we are going to cut out our pieces and then put a little dot of glue in the bottom and pinch it closed. Just very lightly. You do want to be careful with this because the glue, again, is very hot. So pinch it till it dries. And then I'm going to do one more. This one I put way too much glue on, so I may burn myself. You can blow on the glue to make it cool faster. Okay, that should be pretty good. And then what you're going to do is you're just pinching these together. So butting the tabs on the bottom, I guess, the folded pieces on the bottom, butting them. I'm going to get the glue gun out of the way so you have a high contrast background to be able to see. So butting them together, you're going to place a dot of glue on the outside of one and stick it to the outside of another. So it forms kind of that. They kind of look like bunny ears a little bit. I'm going to do these other 2 really quick and add those in so you can see what those look like. Okay, got some glue strings going on here. So again, I'm going to put all of these kind of together to see what I like and what looks good. Oh, that looks a little too linear. That's a little better. I'm going to do this a little weird. I should have checked the pattern before I started doing this to make sure that I'm doing it correctly, but I may not be doing this right. But again, this project is kind of, I don't want to say do what you want, but do what feels right and do what you like. Kind of adds that level of creativity to it and that level of your own personal mark. Okay. That looks a little better. And then I'm going to add this last one. See, I'm kind of just like gluing all of them together at the base. Just giving them all a good pinch and then fluffing them. And then I'll kind of decide once I get this to my panel that I'm going to glue them on, I'll kind of turn it, pinch and pull the leaves to kind of figure out how I want it. What I'm going to do really quick is we're going to do the petal one first. Okay. So the petal one comes with 2 pieces. It comes with a box that you cut out, so like a rectangle, and then it comes with this smaller petal piece right here. This petal piece for me, when I tried it, was not big enough, so I made different shaped petals. This one is my favorite. It's a little bit wider so that it wraps around that a little bit better. Because essentially what you're doing is you're going to take this piece, do a line of felt or a line of glue along this edge, and then roll it. I don't think that I have a finished one or a piece cut correctly. Let's just use this one. Let me get those out of the way. So what that looks like, I'm going to do a line of glue, and then you're going to along the long side, and then you're going to very carefully, I would fold it over once and let it cool. Doing this very lightly so that I don't burn myself. There we go. I'm going to fold over that edge and hold it. You can manipulate the glue a little bit once you've got it stuck to make sure that you've got it straight. And then once it's cool, because that cooled really fast, do another line of glue and now start rolling to the best of your ability. Because sometimes when you fold it that flat, it doesn't want to roll. It kind of just wants to fold back on itself, which is fine. It doesn't have to be perfectly circular. I'm just kind of squishing it a little bit to see if I can get it into a more natural shape. And another line of glue and roll. Now my advice for this one is to roll until you like the thickness of that tube or the stem that we're making. I like this one. I kind of like that really skinny, so I'm not going to use that whole rectangle. I'm going to cut off the excess. Set this guy aside. And sometimes I'll trim a little bit on that free edge, but I actually think that looks pretty good. It looks pretty cohesive. So I'm going to set him aside, and I'm actually going to show you how I was tracing these. I was using a Sharpie. Felt is not absorbent. Felt does not take marker very well. So I would use something that's non-absorbent, something like a Sharpie. And just be aware that it will kind of transfer, but you're going to very lightly trace around your pattern. And again, I'm butting those really close together. It's a little hard to see on the camera, but there is just enough for me to get a line of marker around the outside of that. I'm going to do 4. I'm going to try to fit 4. I don't know if I will. We're going to find out. So that's 3. And, oh, just barely 4. Okay. So, there's that. Set that aside. I'm going to cut these guys out. Trying to cut on the inside of the Sharpie lines. You don't want any Sharpie lines on your finished piece of felt that you're going to glue on because it'll look a little weird. If you have colored Sharpies, try to use a colored Sharpie that's the closest to color to your felt so that it'll blend a little bit better. And it will look a little more natural so you don't have like a lime green leaf with black tips. If that's your thing, go for it. But if you're looking for something a little bit more natural, that's not quite the look that you're going for. Okay. So I have 4 petals. Let me get my scraps out of the way. Okay, and we have our stem. So the first one is going to go around the top, like that. So I'm going to do a line of glue along the bottom of that petal, wrap it around the stem, and hold it till it cools. Okay, that one cooled really fast. So I'm going to go on to my next one. Line of glue along the bottom. And I'm going to put this one on the other side. So overlapping the edges and just down a little bit. There we go. I'm actually just going to wrap this and then I'm going to show you what it looks like. So those two peaks, one is a little bit lower than the other. There we go. That's easier to see. They're a little bit lower than the other. I like how that looks. I think that's as close as I could get it to the pattern, or at least the example that's used in the pattern. And now you're going to go back and forth across each side of the stem. So you're going to follow those two petals and overlap them kind of like shingles. So this one would go there, and the next one would go below and to the side. So I'm just going to go ahead and glue those so you can see what that looks like. Okay, there's two. Sorry, three. And here's four. There we go. So now it's starting to look a little bit more like the example, where you're going back and forth like that. Go all the way to the bottom of the stem if you want, or you can leave a little bit of extra. On the one on here, I left quite a bit of the stem. So I went almost all the way to the bottom because I like to slide these guys behind the petals on some of the bigger ones so it looks like it's kind of growing out of there. It adds a little bit of variety and dimension to your succulents so that it looks a little more natural. Plus, it's also the variety is really pretty. Okay, so those are the three main types of succulents that are in this pattern. I'm going to go ahead and make some more of these off screen so that we can talk about putting them onto your panel. So I'll be right back. We are ready to start the last portion of our project. So I have several succulents of different sizes on the table in front of me that are ready to be glued down. It's probably not all of them that I'll do, but this is what I have for right now. So I am a big fan of asymmetry, so I have a tendency to arrange these a little bit asymmetrical. I don't like those colors together. And you can kind of decide, lay them out, see what you like. That actually may be too many big ones, so I may just stay with those three big ones and then start putting in elements outside of that. And these little guys are good space fillers because you really kind of want to pack your succulents in. A lot of what I see online of even like cultivated real succulents is they have a tendency to pack really, really close together. So I'm going to try to emulate that with the way that I'm arranging my succulents. I'm going to put his smaller petal there, like that. And I'm leaving a little bit of space because I do eventually want to make a taller, taller one of these mint greens to put up here in a spray, kind of like that. So, yeah, I kind of like that because you can always make more later and decide to put them in. But I'm pretty happy with that. So what I'm going to do now is I'm going to start gluing these down. I'm going to start with the big one. And what's nice about these being so flat is you can just take your glue gun and just dump a ton of glue in the middle of that flower, in that well right there. Maybe even a little bit around the outside. What this is going to do is it's going to then squeeze out a little bit onto your background, and that'll really get it settled into place. Another tip to help your succulents look a little bit more realistic, when you finish with them, finish gluing, they're going to look really closed. They're going to look like a cup shape. You want to take your fingers and spread them out, really flatten those out so that they lay more like a real succulent would, more flat like that. I've heard some of my friends who cultivate succulents. I, for the life of me, cannot keep succulents alive, and I feel very terrible of all the ones that have passed while in my care. But I have folks that are friends that are cultivate succulents that call the really tall ones. So like when they get really tall, they call them leggy boys. I don't like my succulents to be leggy. I like them to be kind of flat. So I'm going to play with that a little bit. And you can push some of your succulents together a little bit so that they're pushing up each other's petals. And that can look really nice. I'm actually going to put that mint one a little on top. Yeah, and I'm going to push the purple one in. May actually, well, no, I kind of like the purple one the way it is. There we go. That's better. That I like a little bit more. Yeah. So I'm going to go ahead and glue the purple one down next. And plop that right in. Get my petals all settled in. I'm going to do the mint one next. I really, really like this color. Actually, this mint green was the first one that I picked out of this palette. I didn't talk about color palettes a little bit earlier. While I'm doing this, I'll go ahead and do that. Pick a color palette that's aesthetically pleasing to you. The first one of these that I did before even this one was all green tones. It was all different shades of green. And I was having a little bit of trouble finding shades that cohesively went together and didn't look weird. But it was really, really fun to try to come up with enough pieces to fill the frame that I had picked. So that it looked full enough and that it looked interesting enough. Oh yeah, I really like that. That looks really nice. Oh, I forgot I was going to put him there. Shoot. Actually, might be kind of stuck now. Because this guy's the wrong color. I think, oh yeah. I think there's enough room to still put him in there. Because again, I like things that are asymmetrical and kind of going off at weird angles. So I like him there. And remember what I said about this guy earlier, that you can really kind of push his petals around and figure out what you like, and it can kind of change shape from what you may have originally wanted. He's holding a little flatter than what I would have liked, but that's okay. It still looks really nice. And then yeah, I'm going to put that one there. And then I got to figure out a place for this little green guy. And really play with the colors of your succulents too. I did a Google search for just colorful succulents and was coming up with all different shades of reds and oranges and pinks and blues, and some of them had been changed a little bit, color corrected for. Oh yeah, he's good there. But they still aesthetically are really, really, really pretty. So the cool thing about this is you're not limited to natural tones. You can do whatever you'd like. And I think that's pretty good. I think that looks really nice. Okay. And that is it. You are all done. So, thank you guys for joining me for this video. I have 3 more streams coming up, or 3 more videos for AADL TV. Next Monday, the 30th, I'll be doing a speed sew. I need a bag for my blocking mats. I happen to be a knitter in addition to a crafter. So I'm going to try to speed sew a bag in a half an hour. We have planned, I'm not sure how it's going to work, a stream of Stardew Valley on Tuesday, March 31st at 3 p.m. My partner and I are in year 2 of Stardew Valley, so we'd like to have you come and play with us or come watch us play. And then the third one that I have planned is a beginner jewelry making. That's Friday, April 10th at 2 p.m. This was an offshoot of a program that I would have done last week for the library. That was a stitch marker class, but I'm expanding it into beginner jewelry making so you can make your own really awesome jewelry with just the basic jewelry findings. Thank you again for joining me. Wishing all of you health and safety and happiness, and please remember to be kind to each other and love each other. Have a great day. Bye.